Hey guys, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Nigerian Nerd. I hope you've missed me. It's been a while, and we're just going to talk about a concept that has been on my mind for a while now, which is freedom in storytelling. And our case study for today is going to be my favorite game of 2022 so far, at least until God of War comes out and hopefully does what I expect it to do. But that is, by the way, we're focusing on Elden Ring today.
Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Champions, welcome! A celebration of war! Paragon Festival! I pray that the guidance of grace abandons you.
Why accept the burden of their
Elden Ring is the game that has occupied my thoughts, my mind, everything about me the most this year. I probably have over 160 hours on my second playthrough now, and I love it. And the reason I think this game is great is because of freedom. The developers trust you to be free enough to think. They give you freedom to act. They give you freedom to walk away. They give you freedom to fail, and ultimately freedom to conquer, grow, and excel. Because once you get good at this game, it's one of the most rewarding things you can do, as is the case with every From Software game. Now, for my newbies in the house, what is a From Software game? We should start that by asking, what is From Software? From Software is a game studio from Japan headed by a gentleman called Hidetaka Miyazaki. Their games they started with the Dark Souls games. They've done Demon Souls, they've done Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and they did Sekiro, they did Bloodborne, and now here we are with Elden Ring. So, I played the first From Software game I ever played religiously was Sekiro. And in Sekiro, there was a heavy focus on offense and vertical mobility. Whereas most of the other, in fact, fun fact, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, there was no jump button. You could only move on horizontal surfaces and you could sprint, and then there were specific platforms you could hop on and off from, but just jumping on its own wasn't a thing. It's a game that is deeply rooted in its fundamental mechanics. And if you watch old Legend of Zelda videos, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, you see the same mechanics that those games used to become great in the early 2000s and /mid 90s. You can see those same mechanics translate into Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Sekiro. Same thing. I'm never going to go into any details. Just take your time and watch it. And all of that is largely because these are the games and these are the pop culture influences that molded the mind of Miyazaki, and which he uses as a leader to direct the team on their creative endeavors and their projects. But for me, the one reason to sum it all up is freedom. Hidetaka Miyazaki created a game that leaves you free to explore, to grow, to fail, and ultimately to conquer. Now, Miyazaki did something very interesting in this game, which was that he collaborated with the great and powerful George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame, and he split up the development work of the story and narrative into. He gave most of the creative leeway to R.R. Martin. He was the one that set up the world, the rules, the religions, the mythos, the framework that everybody operates under. It's in many ways art imitates reality, or life imitates art, right? And for stories to be relatable and for the average person to just pick up a story and to relate with it, it has to be rooted in certain storytelling elements. Now, you could become really academic and pick out academic reasons, pacing, narrative, stakes, whatever, character development. You could be all technical and call it that. But really, what people want is to be able to relate with the story you're telling them. They could relate with it through their fantasies, they could relate with it through their day-to-day, could relate with it through anything. But people just need a story to be relatable. And a reliable way to make a story relatable is to root it in already existing frameworks and systems. So you can analyze your religious systems in which your world currently exists, then take elements of it. For instance, now the Catholic Church, known as being the biggest religious institution maybe in the world, organized religious institution, massive history, massive heritage, this and that. But there's also a very, very dark history with the Crusades, with all the stuff that Catholic priests have been caught up with sexual misconduct and whatnot. And if you're telling a story, a way to not be controversial while being relevant is to take cues from history, to take cues from real life. And that's what R.R. Martin does, because you can see it bleed through in the universe that he has created. The Golden Order is basically the Catholic Church. It's basically organized Christianity. And it shows you everything that is positive, everything that is negative, everything that is beautiful, everything that is hideous about this outwardly beautiful and glory-filled way of living life, and the things that happen behind closed doors, like the slaying of the Albinorics, the killing of other races, other creatures that don't belong, that don't subscribe to your worldview. And he does it excellently. This is what separates video game storytelling, when done right, from Hollywood and TV shows.
Guided by grace, once lost. The Golden Order is broken to its core.
The way I look at it, right, is good art, good entertainment gives you something to think about, whereas bad entertainment tells you what to think. And Elden Ring, between Hidetaka Miyazaki's overall work and R.R. Martin's storytelling and world building, gives you a lot to think about. This game is cramped full of stories that will make you cry, stories that will make you cry, and stories that will make you cry, with just a few that would make you laugh in between. It's dark. There's nothing really hopeful to look forward to. The lands between are ashen, are just decaying. You have all sorts of terrible things happening and no hope. Even your entire journey is just marred with catastrophe after catastrophe. Nobody expects anything good from you. And even at the end of the game, when you eventually become triumphant, it's after you've overcome so many overwhelming odds that by the end of it, you truly do feel like the overcomer of 1,000 battles. Like you failed 1,000 times, and this is 1,001, and you won. Now that leads me to the third part of the thing I wanted to highlight in this video, which is difficulty. For a From Software game, the biggest thing, the most influential thing about every From Software game is the boss fights. Then second to that is the world building and how beautiful and varied their worlds are. But boss fights are the ultimate thing, because these games are to a large extent defined by difficulty. Difficulty is part of the soup, the ingredients that make a From Software game work. And it's culminated in the bosses. It's culminated in every single boss you meet. Where does Elden Ring rank with all of this? To be frank, I'm going to say that the first 60% of this game, in my opinion, is perfect. And when I say the first 60%, I'm going to be clear about it. I'm referring to Leyndell, Stormvale Castle. I'm referring to Liurnia of the Lakes. I'm referring to Caelid. And what's the fourth place? So let's call it 3. that first 30% of this game, Kai, when you meet Margit the Fell Omen the first time, everything about that fight is what makes From Software games great. His large telegraphed moves, which also do a shit ton of damage, his ability to cover ground and cover from range, so you're never really comfortable. It forces you to really think about the mechanics of the game. What moves can be parried? What moves can be rolled out of? Oh, when can I use a heavy attack? When can I use a light attack? Oh, his stance gets broken when I use heavy attacks more. That's when your brain and all the circuits that connect and let you know that this is a problem that is not impossible, it's not too hard, you can solve it. Margit brings that together, and that's From Software at its best. That's From Software just letting you know that they understand what you need as a gamer. That dopamine fix, they're going to give it to you, but they're going to let you work for it first. It's why difficulty can be a good feature in game design, and they hold that standard up all the way through Stormvale, all the way through Leonia of the Lakes, all the way through Caelid, and all the way through Lendel. That's the 4 regions. Well, after that, it sort of falls apart. And it falls apart, in my humble opinion, because I feel the first portion of the game, that first 70%, was where they had all the time to give as much attention to detail, to balancing as they could. But as the game sort of goes, because it gets bigger and bigger as it goes forward, but balancing sort of goes out the window. You have enemies that attack you. Like, look at Millennia's waterfowl dance. She attacks like 9 times. This is not a game that you have a multiple parry system such as Sekiro. You have one parry, and if you miss it, you're open. And not every attack is parryable. But then they also do this thing where sorry, Nepa just took light. This is the second time on this channel that Nepa is taking light while I'm recording. But I'm so desensitized now that you can see I'm never reacting anymore. I just want to get my content out. And you see that's the difficulty curve sort of goes awry, and they just took the light again. The difficulty curve sort of goes awry after those first 4 regions. I think they didn't have the time to balance the game properly, to design the bosses, to properly tune and tweak them, because at the end of the game, the satisfaction you get from understanding a boss's patterns, understanding his moves, understanding his different phases, it sort of goes out the window. And many people blame this on spirit summons. Spirit summons are a unique summon you get in the game that lets you duplicate yourself, and then your spirit can then do everything you can do, sometimes even better than you, because it's almost like it doesn't have a mana cost, and it just uses all your abilities, all your items. So you can have 2 of you on the screen, and your opponents, what makes it even more broken is that the enemies can't discern which one is the real one, so they just keep attacking whichever. They take aggro, whichever one attacks takes aggro, and that's how you overcome a lot of the end game bosses. It's a mixed bag, because by the time I fought Malekith is, nobody should crucify me, but I think Malekith is the coolest looking boss in the game. He's the one that always stands out to me whenever I remember the game. His second phase specifically, Malekith Blackblade. Malekith was the boss that let me know that I was done. Malekith and the Godskin duo, both of them, I was just like, this isn't fun anymore. I'm just exploiting the game. I'm just using my stats to just overpower this guy's health bar and kill him. It's not really fun. I just want to complete the story. I want to move forward. I want to level up. At the point, leveling up even just feels redundant. You don't even feel like you're actually leveling up, because you might add 5 points to your strength, then meet a boss who you hit with a strength-based weapon or a faith-based weapon, and you do no damage. You could argue that that's a feature of the game design, so that you try out different builds and try out variety, and I would say that's a very strong argument. But I would also say that sometimes difficulty for difficulty's sake ends up ruining the overall experience, and sometimes that's what it felt like, difficulty for difficulty's sake, which is rather discouraging, because if every single boss gave me the feeling that Margit the Fell Omen, Godric the Grafted, Renala of the Full Moon, even though hers was really simple, and even More gods. If you could give me all the satisfaction I got from fighting those initial bosses, I would be so much more grateful. I would love this game so much more. But at the end, it just became a little too much, man. Bosses do so much damage. You do very little. There's very little. Even dodging the moves just requires so much anticipation, not even reaction. And you then have to rely on spirit summons. I went the intelligence dexterity route, so I even started using Comet Azure to like nuke out those really annoying tree sentinels, not tree sentinels, what are they called? The Crucible Knights. I just started nuking them because it wasn't fun fighting them anymore. It just wasn't, and I just wanted to move forward.
On a night of wintry fog, the rune of death was stolen. And the demigods began to fall. Starting with Godwyn the Gold.
Game. From Software did something that very few people thought was possible. They took all their years of cumulative experience and created an open world which was not only beautiful but genuinely compelling to explore. The bosses were difficult, but they were really rewarding, and the abilities, the costumes, the stats you get from beating them genuinely makes the experience of trying to overcome these guys worth it. From Software have set a template and set a formula that the rest of the Western gaming development scene can take example for. This game was released a week after Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Forbidden West I did not play, but people that I respect played it and reviewed it and said that it was just more of the flack. If you're a content creator looking to take your content to the next level, then you might be in the right place. The Nigerian Nerd offers video editing, voiceovers, visual effects, interviews, anything you need to spruce up your already existing content. Maybe you just have a phone, maybe you don't have money to buy a camera. You make your footage, you send it to us, we edit it. If you want to reach out, you want to collaborate, you want to hire us, check out our Fiverr, check out our Freelancer. And if you want to support all the stuff we're already doing, because all the content we put out is completely 100% for free, you can consider supporting us on Patreon. Links to everything are in my bio. Have an amazing day.